I've been married for 33 years. I have 3 kids, and they all live in Richmond, Virginia, which is where I come from. I've been here for almost 7 years. We own Finnegan's restaurant in Buxton, North Carolina, arguably the closest business to the point. And right outside the door here, we have the Cape Point, which is the most premier surf fishing spot on the East Coast, which is at the moment closed, and has been closed since I think mid-April this year. This is late June. You might say we wound up with a bit of an empty nest syndrome ourselves, and we just kind of wanted to be someplace else and do something different, and this opportunity presented itself to us. For us, it was a dream come true to be in our spot, you know.
Hal, how do you feel about the fact that your tax dollars ultimately are paying for a federal agency that puts the manufactured well-being of a bird over your own future?
Raped. I mean, I feel completely and totally and utterly let down. What my government has done to me is almost the same as what I see happening to the American Indians over the years. I mean, they're just shutting me down, taking things away. My tax dollars are not helping me at all. My tax dollars are being used to crush me.
This was just a job at first. I had a chance to shoot a video about beaches that were being closed for environmental reasons. But soon after getting down there, I would realize that this wasn't about beaches. It was about people. People who deserved better than they were getting. The kind of people that I imagine founded this country. Hard-working, salt-of-the-earth people who were respectful of their heritage and proud of their roots in this place. For generations, these people and their predecessors had overcome countless storms, hurricanes, floods, and anything else that can come at you when you live naked to the elements 30 miles off the North Carolina mainland in the Atlantic. But with all that these people had fought in the past, they were now facing the biggest natural challenge in several generations. And that challenge had come to them in the form of a bird. The piping plover.
I am very angry at what has happened to this community here. People are suffering economically. They are suffering personally. This is really a difficult time period for this island. I am begging and pleading for anybody to help us here.
Some people might not understand this whole thing really started with a beach driver on the at Oregon Inlet Spit.
When you get a ticket out on the beach, you have to respond to the federal court, and that's where his case went to Judge Terrence Boyle. Judge Boyle was just livid because he says that this is typical of people coming into his court that are out there breaking the law.
In 1975, President Nixon had charged that all national parks have a plan for off-road vehicles. This particular case brought to light the fact that the Cape Hatteras National Seashore Park didn't have an ORV plan in the law books.
The environmentalists found this out. They sued, and then we had another critical habitat.
Judge Boyle had said right there that he is going to go ahead and give injunctive relief to the plaintiffs, which were the environmentalists, and pretty essentially go ahead and do away with ORV driving.
If any of these go through, the use of four-wheel drives on Hatteras Island's history.
ORV access and pedestrian access, they're one and the same. The judge was just absolutely uncaring. If we were there, or even if we weren't there, that's okay.
Emboldened by their newfound power, the environmental groups launched a social and economic assault on the people of Hatteras Island.
"32 years of doing this, I've been told by Park Service that I'm young enough to go out and find and learn to do something else. I don't know anything else except fishing tackle."
The people who come down and go fishing with me in the spring and in the fall, every one of them are beach fishermen. They are not going to come to this island to fish with me one day and then hang out in a cottage or a motel for the rest of the time.
And Park Service and the environmentalists sit up yonder and say, there's no harm. You know, it's just a few tackle shop owners and a few people that are hurt. And it's just a damn lie.
I don't know how 9 pairs of birds can shut down a total economy for an island. It's hard enough to make it here as it is.
I know people that were born and raised on this island that have moved away. that never thought they would ever have to move away from their home.
Right now, my house is, I've been fighting foreclosure on my house for, since November. I had to lay everybody off, everybody.
I've been here 23 years. I would hope that some of my family could take it over and pay me rent that I could retire with. This is my 401k.
Every summer I lose $30,000.
How much would you say your business is off because of this?
I'd say 40%.
My business is off 40% this year. I'm down 4 employees. You don't think it doesn't hurt? Go out and look at anybody that works with you or for you. Go ahead and say, I'm sorry, you don't have a job anymore.
It's not only the business being down, but it's also having that threat of we might close it down.
You just don't know the suffering and anguish, the mental anguish that this has bestowed upon us.
This is a tough time worldwide economically. There's going to be great international competition for resources. And if our country's hands are tied by legislation that is misdirected and not doing what it should do, we're going to fall short.
Your tax dollar is being used to pay lawyers to sue you to close the beaches down and everything else. It's not right. It's just not right.
That's not the government my husband fought World War II for.
After this interview, we packed up and began heading out. As we reached the door, Carol called after our group. "Please help us," she said. It wasn't the last time we'd hear a similar plea.
There is nothing in the proposed plan which will increase the habitat available to the birds anyway. Even a total closure, a total prohibition of all driving into the park will not add 1 square foot of habitat.
These are aerial photographs taken in May of this year that show the closures at Cape Point.
All this vegetation right here, the dunes that never existed before, until they put the enclosures up and they stopped people from driving out here.
Years ago, when this area was a very successful nesting habitat for shorebirds and piping plovers, there was no vegetation in these areas. Then the Park Service started to close off the interior of Cape Point for wintering birds, and the vegetation grew.
They want to force them closer to the ocean, closer to ocean overwash, closer for the predators to get them. It's a complete disaster for the shorebirds to nest.
Those things could be corrected, but there's no interest in doing that except from the access-minded people.
The birds have effectively found other places to nest, and the environmentalists are blaming the ORV community for chasing the birds out of the area, when in fact it's because of Park Service's management of the areas or mismanagement of it.
One of the issues I have with the beach being closed is the birds that are not endangered, they're actually on the concerned list, are getting the same status, the same protection as the birds that are endangered.
There are more birds over in where people live than there were before, all along this ridge that I live on here in Buxton.
In any management scenario, there has to be a clear separation between the science and the management. That does not happen here. It's the same people.
I'm a former science teacher, and all of my life I was taught that decisions should be based on fact and on reason. And when I see some of the pseudoscience, BS science, whatever you want to call it, that obviously isn't science, and I look at the kids that are growing up here, and I know that they're looking at that, and I ask myself, how can the teachers, how can their parents, how can anyone make them believe that science is anything other than politics?
The community, as it grows in the next 10 years, hates Park Service. I've got blessed to have a 4.5-year-old young son. I was late in life having a son. He said a blessing the other day. He said, "Dear Lord, bless Mommy, bless Daddy, bless my grandparents, but Lord, will you kill some of those damn birds?"
Turns out if Bob's son had gotten his wish, those dead plovers would have had company.